removal and to get out and enjoy it. I have access to, a good plow truck driver and all those things that do. And, we are used to snow. We are prepared to have a blizzard.
Hello, it is Wednesday, February 18th, and this is the afternoon shift. I'm Adam Lorenz.
I'm Max Fuller.
And it's a jam-packed show today, Max. We're tracking the Team USA, the men's hockey team. They're playing Sweden right now, 0-0 at the end of the first period.
Yeah, a trip for the gold medal game on the line.
Two more rounds.
Oh, two more rounds. Oh,
really? Quarterfinal today. Yes.
Okay, I thought they had one more round.
Yes.
I see.
Two more rounds. They will play the middle seed because Canada did win earlier today. But you know who can tell us more about all of this is your friend Jessie Pierce.
She's actually very informed about this. I
very
clearly
informed.
know nothing.
Very informed. We're catching her at the right time, like you said, right at the end of the first period.
I know. Jessie Pierce, the co-host of the Bar Down Beauties podcast. I know she's diligently watching this Team USA versus Sweden matchup. Jessie, can you catch us up? We haven't been able to watch the first period. Can you catch us up on what's been going down so far?
You know that song Anxiety? Like, that's what I've been feeling throughout this entire thing. I think Doechii sings it. I'll spare your ears for replaying it. It's zeros, so I shouldn't be stressing that much, but this has 2-1 written all over in favor of Sweden. Sweden's a very good team, no doubt about it. It's one of the other teams at this Olympic Games that is full of NHL players, including Jules Eriksson-Ek of the Minnesota Wild, Philip Gustafsson of the Minnesota Wild, Jesper Bellsted of the Minnesota Wild, Marcus Johansson as well. So suffice to say, it's a battle so far. There's nothing more that I want to see than the U.S. and Canada square off for that gold medal game. I heard you guys talking about it. Canada winning their quarterfinal matchup very, very narrowly, a 4-3 overtime victory against Czechia. And the U.S., again, zeros after one. Still a lot of hockey to be played, boys, but sweating bad. I'm so nervous. I want it so bad.
Jessie, USA, they've just been blowing out all of these teams so far. Why do you think that these matchups are getting tighter now that we're in the quarterfinal round? Obviously, Canada blew out a lot of teams too, and today they easily could have lost. They won in overtime.
Yeah, it speaks to the parity that is starting to become in hockey. European hockey and hockey here in North America is so different, and there's just more resources here in North America. That's why you're seeing Canada and the U.S. kind of always be amongst some of the best, but Finland, Sweden, Czechia, Slovakia, another team that really kind of had a very good group showing. Those guys are not any slouches. They have some very talented players, that are over here in the National Hockey League too, which is a ton of fun to watch, but you just don't get to see some of that other talent that lives in the European hockey world. So group play, prelim play certainly should be a breeze for the Canadas and the US's, right? It shouldn't be a difficult thing. Now, the US, though, didn't play their best hockey, I don't feel. This is weird. The Olympic Games are also a very special tournament because you have a bunch of different guys that have to gel together in a matter of days and then go play against the best players in the world who have also had to gel. So it's a very unique tournament. It's a fast tournament. The U.S. started to come alive in that third and final preliminary game against Germany, but even today, you're seeing they're slow to wake up. That first period isn't quite as tight as it could be. Again, all things considered, it's a ton of fun. It's the best hockey. I love that it's best on best. Again, you get to see different countries come up and do their thing. Again, I'm still reeling from the Canada-Czechia game. I had never in any world imagined that there would be a team that could compete with Canada at this Olympic Games. And Czechia, credit to them. That was a ton of fun.
Jesse, you mentioned the slow starts there, but what are some other weaknesses of this U.S. team? I know they've been dominant, blowing everybody out. It's kind of nitpicking at this point, right? But what are some of the weaknesses of this team that you think a Sweden or a Canada could possibly take advantage of?
They're very blue collar. This American team has some stars, but they're not necessarily the superstars that Canada has. They don't have Crosby, Celebrini, McKinnon, McDavid all on this, super unit of a power play. The U.S. wins in very different manner. They have to get to the dirty areas. They have to get to the crease. I think that offensive output isn't quite as strong as it could be, considering some of the defenses and the goaltenders that they're going to be going up against. I think they're very strong in net. Connor Hellebuyck, who plays for the Winnipeg Jets, is the guy. He's always shown to be the guy, one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League, definitely one of the best American goaltenders we've seen as well. And then on the blue line, you've got the likes of Brock Faber. You all know him. You've got Quinn Hughes. We all know him. Jacob Slavin, Werenski, Charlie McAvoy. I think on the back end, very, very strong. That's been the most exciting component. Not to mention that back end really moves the puck well. We've seen what Quinn Hughes does in a Minnesota Wild jersey. He's doing that even times 10 for Team USA already. So I love what they're doing on the back. I just need a little bit more offensive output. I'm looking at guys like Jake Gensel, who is so phenomenally fast and so quick to take a shot, but has been a little quiet so far. Matt Boldy, a guy who's had a very good tournament, but I'm looking to see him turn up the heat a little bit. And the Kachuk brothers, who, you know, you hate them or you love them, but you love them when they're on your team because they can be a ton of fun to watch. They've been really key. So I think if the offense can really get going and not let their foot off the gas, they'll be okay. But it's just a matter of actually getting to that point for Team USA.
Jesse, can you walk us through the bracket as it stands now? Who would, in theory, if the USA were to advance, who would they play in the semifinal round?
So it'll depend. So if the U.S. wins now, I believe they would play Finland. Okay. If the U.S. loses and Sweden wins, and Sweden actually plays Canada, because they will reseed after these quarterfinals. So Canada going into overtime obviously shakes things up a little bit with their overtime victory. So if U.S., they get the easier route, or they might be Slovakia. They'll reseed either way. Guys, hold on. Can we pull up?
It's complicated,
right?
I tweeted it earlier. Well, it is, because it's kind of that reseeding, I think, is so important and makes it so much fun, but it definitely catches my attention. Like, okay, so what are we doing here? So let me double check. It might be Slovakia, in fact, that they replay. So if US wins tonight, the semifinals will be Canada and Finland and US and Slovakia. If Sweden wins, the semis will be Canada and Sweden and Slovakia and Finland. So that's how it'll break down in that next iteration. We've got 2 more periods of hockey at least before we see what happens there.
Fingers crossed for the U.S. men. You mentioned how it's best on best, first time in 12 years, I believe. Jesse? Is it the grand opening and grand finale after what happened to Switzerland's Kevin Fiala last week? He got hurt. He's out for the season now. I would imagine this is the very thing that the NHL owners probably feared in letting NHLers play in the Olympic Games. Is it already over, but as it's just beginning?
It's going to have to be a constant conversation, right? I think the NHL sees great value. Their guys want to go do this. You have a ton of eyes on hockey right now because it's just a fun tournament to watch. People are seeing it in prime time. They're getting to get into it. You know, the patriotic pride always comes through. But Sidney Crosby got hurt today too, right? Like, you do have to wonder which superstars are going to have to be kicked off before the NHL says, you know what, we can't do this. I think the NHL will continue to do it in some iteration. The Four Nations, as we saw last February, was a huge success. So I think they recognize doing something like the Four Nations and then continuing to compete in the Olympics in some capacity is going to be imperative to growing the game, but definitely going to be tricky, because even in general, the NHL doesn't love taking 2 weeks, 3 weeks off from their regular schedule. We saw how condensed the first half of this NHL season was as they were trying to prepare for this long of a break. So a lot of things into consideration, but at the end of the day, I want to see it. I think hockey fans want to see it. I think even the very novice hockey fans want to see this type of action because, like I mentioned, when you're listing all these names and they're going to play against each other, it's so much fun. I just love it.
Jesse, let's go to the women's side. Can you talk, give a little preview of tomorrow's gold medal match between the USA and Canada?
Whew, this U.S. women's team is unlike anything I have ever witnessed. It's always been Canada and the U.S. And I know that can bother some people because there's always just it's those two squads. And that's, again, speaks to the resources. These are two countries that put the resources into developing their girls and women starting at the grassroots. And we see that definitely firsthand here in Minnesota. But then now you have the PWHL helping expand and grow the game. So these girls are competing at high levels throughout the course of the regular season, not just with their national team. So that's been tremendous. But I think this U.S. team is unstoppable. Usually Canada finds a way to get past the U.S., but my goodness, they are so good. Aaron Franklin, who has been shutting out team after team after team. They even did it against Canada, right? Like, they have performed so well against Canada, not just at the Winter Games, but during the rivalry series, which goes on during the course of the regular season. I think it's the U.S. all the way, baby. Like, I am so locked in. Taylor Heisey, let's go, ladies. You got plenty of Minnesota Frost players on that roster, and it's kind of a passing of the torch. You're seeing that in on the men's side for Canada, but definitely on the women's side as well, with Hillary Knight kind of showing the way for Caroline Harvey and the likes of these younger players, Lila Edwards, all of these new names that are, you know, somewhat becoming more and more familiar, but they're playing in some of their first Olympics. So I'm locking it in for the women. I just have full support, full faith. I think they have everything from top to bottom, from the scoring, from the defense, and obviously the goaltending. It's theirs to lose. So I'm saying, ladies, bring it home. That's what women do best in sports. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. They tend to win championships pretty easy, at least here locally that we recognize.
Especially here in Minnesota. And like you said, Jesse, there's so many eyes on hockey right now. And I feel like you said, this women's team is special. They're having a moment right now. I feel like this is going to be like an explosive moment for the popularity of women's hockey here in the United States. Don't you think?
And so there's just something very special. I mean, we've talked about women's sports across the board having more than just a moment, right? It's a movement and how many eyes are on it. But yeah, you go win gold and they're fun to watch. This women's team is fast and they are still heavy hitting. There's a physicality to women's hockey. If you've never watched women's hockey before, there is that element. No, it's not the fighting and maybe necessarily the bruteness of the men's, but there is just the speed and this finesse, but also paired with the physical. Abby Murphy. If you guys haven't watched Abby Murphy play with the University of Minnesota, take a chance to watch Team USA and all the things that she can do. She is feisty, but she's also scoring these amazing goals. At the U of M, she scored a between the legs backhander just a week ago. Tremendous hockey. So I'm so excited for this Team USA. I think it just takes U.S. women's hockey to a completely another level. And you guys I gotta encourage you, check it out. Plus there's some really fun, the family, Parker Fox, right? Who locally media member here, Matamidi grad as well, like myself. Taylor Heisey's fiance, I think is his favorite title. So I'm going to call him that, Taylor Heisey's fiance. Plus then there's this girl, Haley Wynn. She's got these 3 brothers who are dressed to the nines every day and just supporting her to help raise awareness for women's hockey. And they're like, she's the best athlete in our family and she's our babysitter. Like, I love it. I encourage you guys to go watch them because they're just bringing more and more attention to the women, as they should. I love it.
Jesse Pierce, the co-host of the Bar Down Beauties podcast. We appreciate it, Jesse.
Always, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Awesome. Thanks. In true afternoon shift fashion, we're going to go from hockey right to a live press conference that's happening right now about manufactured home presidents.
Yeah, it's underway right now, so let's get right to it.
Also, another point to our bill is that we are we want an opportunity for residents to purchase in the event that the property owners decide to sell the property. We want a seat at the table for that, and there are mechanisms in place that can help us do this. And lastly, we are also in our bill is we want transparency. If they're charging us an exorbitant amount, an unreasonable amount, we want to know what that money's going for, and not just shareholders' profits. If there's a need in the community that requires money, I mean, we need to know these things. They can't just say, yeah, trust us, and that's it. So if something goes wrong, yeah, it's transparency.
Okay. Let me give you a little background for those of you that may not be aware. I started this bill with Matt Norris 3 years ago. And since then, we've had some wins. We've come a long ways. We still have a ways to go. But we knocked on 10,000 doors. Trying to bring people out of their communities so that we could build people power. We went into 36 parks. This was just last summer. We have 180,000 people that live in manufactured housing. We have 540 parks, manufactured home parks in the state of Minnesota. That's a huge number. Those are large numbers that we can move legislators with. But we have had some wins. We've had the governor and the AG We have their support. Yeah. And we have the support of quite a few authors and co-authors on this bill. So it's looking pretty good. But change doesn't come overnight. It takes time. And we're in the process. And we're going to get to the other side. And we're here today to get our legislators to get on the right side of this, to be on the right side of this. Okay? All right. John?
Okay, so a little bit about the moment that we're in. We're surrounded by corporate greed. We have private equity firms from out of state that are coming into our state, gobbling up all the properties and jacking the rent up through the roof. And so far, there hasn't been a lot we can do about it. Well, we're hoping to change that here. Also, first of all, I would like to acknowledge that we're missing some neighbors here today. ICE has had a major impact on our communities. And just people are afraid to leave their homes, and so it does take away from our efforts, but we're not going to let that stop us. So in modern day America, it seems like the politics of chaos and cruelty are ruling the day. More and more so, we've descended into an us against them, fighting culture wars, and it's all a distraction to keep us from fighting the true battle, which is corporate greed versus affordability. And we have to stay focused. So it's where am I? Go ahead and introduce her. Yeah. Okay. So, Speaker Murphy, where are we? All right. Sorry about this. So, at this time, I'd like to introduce Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy, who is going to come up and talk to us a little bit here.
Good afternoon. In this chamber, we say good afternoon. That is right. And in this chamber, when we invoke the power of people, we bring it. I am Erin Murphy. I'm the proud majority leader in the Minnesota Senate. I live in District 64, which is just that way a little bit, right in St. Paul. Yeah, thank you. And I am proud to be with you today and with my colleagues from whom you are going to hear, Senator Seeberger, Senator Bolden, the author of the bill, Representative Norris, Representative Purcell. But mostly I want to say to you, there is probably nothing more powerful to me than our voices together to change the circumstances of our lives. And when I heard that there had been, how many doors knocked?
10,000.
10,000 doors knocked. I knew that the foundation for this piece of legislation was important and real. Because when it is the voices of Minnesotans that inform what we're doing in this body, we are moving the work of the people. That's our job. So first and foremost, for anybody who has knocked the doors to bring us to this point, thank you very, very much. I had a chance to meet with a subset of you today to hear a little bit more about what people are actually experiencing, and I want to stand with you and help you save your homes, our homes. We all need a place to live. We know that. And when private equity is coming in and making it impossible for you to stay in a home that you own because of the lot rent, then I think we have to do something, because more people out of homes makes Minnesota less stable. And it hurts people's health and their well-being. So we have all the reason in the world to take action together. But it was Gwen who said this. I thought this was right and smart, and I hope you repeat it over and over and over again. There's a thin line between profit and greed. And as Gwen reminded me and reminds us, private equity has crossed way over the line. It's impacting your lives, and I am confident that the people who you are working with and us together can make this difference. One last thing. We have been through a hell of a lot in the last number of months as ICE has done what it's done. Our federal government has done what it has done to the people of Minnesota. But when I talk with my colleagues from across the country, what they see is a powerful resistance burning brightly. That's us here in the North Star. So don't ever, ever doubt the power of us together in making the change we need for our lives. Thank you so much for bringing your voice and your door knocking to this important cause. I'm with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader Murphy. And now we want to bring up our bill authors. Representative Norris, Jesus. I've been doing this too long. That's my best bud. Senator Bowden and all the other representatives and senators who are signed on to the bill.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Representative Matt Norris. I am proud to represent the communities of Blaine and Lexington in the Minnesota House of Representatives, the district with the most manufactured housing of any House district in the state of Minnesota. I'm proud to be joined. Representative Purcell was around here somewhere, one of my House colleagues, one of our co-authors. I also send regards from another manufactured housing champion in the House. Well, we've got Representative Ryer here, and Representative Feist, who has been a champion for a number of years in the House on manufactured housing, sends her regards. She wasn't able to make it. But let's give a round of applause for the work she's done. I know her mayor, one of her mayors is right here in the front row. You know, when Gwen and I first started on this journey, it was just the two of us sitting in a coffee shop talking about what was going on in her park. And I said, all right, let's write a bill, let's see what happens. And as often happens in this place, all of a sudden, these lobbyists descended. And what should have been a simple common sense thing, putting in protections to prevent Minnesotans from unreasonable rent increases, became the most contentious bill that I offered in my first term here in the Minnesota House. And so Gwen and I, we put our heads together and we said we need to do something about this. And so we started knocking doors because, these lobbyists, they hide in the shadows of this building. They're never out in the forefront, but they hide in the shadows. We know them. We see them. And the thing that can always trump big money and the powerful interests behind them is people power. So thanks to Gwen and her neighbors and neighbors all across the state of Minnesota, you guys got to work. You went out and started knocking doors, talking to neighbors, making phone calls, holding rallies. And as a result, there is so much momentum behind this bill. We're a little, let's applaud for that. We're a little bit stuck right now in the House because of some partisanship, and so we got to keep working on that. My Senate colleagues will talk here in a minute about some of the momentum we're building on the Senate side, though. And in the long run, we're going to get this done. I have no doubt about it. Whether it's this year or whether it's next year, we are going to make sure that there is a pro-manufactured housing resident majority in the House and the Senate. And the first thing we do when that happens is we are going to pass the Manufactured Home Park Resident Bill of Rights. So I want to thank all of you for coming down here on a really crazy day. I can't even see out the door there. It's like a whiteout outside. So coming down here means so much. Thank you for all the work. I am going to be standing there right next to you throughout this session and past it if we need to make sure that we get that bill passed once and for all. So next, I'm proud to turn it over to one of our Senate authors, Senator Seeberger. I'm actually going to have to take off. We've got some important votes we need to take in the Housing Committee, so I'm going to have to take off. No disrespect to my colleagues, but you're in great hands with the wonderful Senator Judy Seeberger.
It's good to see everybody here today. I represent District 41, which has 5 mobile home parks, manufactured home parks in it, including Three Rivers, my good friend Mary Nearing in the back, representing the folks from Three Rivers. I also have Cimarron, and I see some of my friends and neighbors from Cimarron. And I first met the good folks at Cimarron when I was door knocking in 2022 to come here to the Capitol and do this ridiculous job. But I am so glad that I did. And I met some of my favorite people on the campaign trail when I went through Cimarron, and they've remained my friends and my partners in this ever since. I want to thank Representative Norris and Senator Bolden for the work that they've done on the Bill of Rights that we've been working on. I want to let you know, as Vice Chair of Commerce, I have connected with the Chair of Commerce in the Senate and urged him to hear the bill in Commerce, and he assures me that he will. The next stop along the way is the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I plan to sit down with those folks too. I also sit on the Judiciary Committee and ensure that it is heard there. Because folks who live in manufactured home communities deserve the Bill of Rights. They deserve rent increases that do not exceed 3%. They deserve to be treated fairly. They do not deserve the predatory housing practices that you guys have had to endure for too long. And I have experienced it firsthand. If you haven't seen the video of me being thrown out of the management office at Cimarron, I'm happy to send you the link. That woman rolled her eyes at me and mouthed the words, "Shut up," while I was talking to her. So I can only imagine the level of disrespect and abuse that Cimarron folks and others put up with. So know that I am in this fight with you. I am your partner. Come and see me anytime. I want to hear from any and all of you. And with my help, I guarantee you we're going to get this across the finish line. Thanks you guys all for showing up today.
Good afternoon. I'm Senator Liz Golden. I represent the Rochester area. I'm the Vice Chair of the Housing and Homelessness Prevention Committee, and I am the Senate author of this bill, proudly. Thank you to all of you for being here today. Thank you for the thousands of doors that you have knocked. All of that work, that is momentum, that is helping, that will get this bill passed. Whether, as Rep. Norris said, whether that is this year or next year, this bill will get passed. And it is because of all of you, because of all of the effort, time, energy, work that you have put in to build momentum, to build power. I see the sign here that says people power will beat money power. That is exactly right. That is what you have been doing. We know that no matter what your zip code is, how much money you make, everyone deserves not just a place that is affordable to call home, but a place that is home. And so this bill is incredibly important. We are going to get a hearing in the Commerce Committee. We are going to get a hearing in the Judiciary Committee. We are going to move this bill through in the Senate. So I just want to end with, it really matters that you are here today. The conversations that you have or will have with our colleagues really, really matter. So keep, whoever represents you, keep pushing them, keep asking them about this.
whether they support it or whether they don't, those conversations are really, really important. As I am having conversations with my colleagues in the Senate, the more people hear about this, the more conversations that we have, the more support we are getting for it. And it matters that they are hearing from people in their districts about it as well. And so, again, I'll just end with thank you for all the work that you have done to this point, and thank you for everything that we will do together to get this bill passed. We will get it passed. Thank you. So next, I'm going to invite up Chris Hansen, who is going to talk about their experience.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Hansen. I have a long story. I'll make it quick. I live at Park of Four Seasons in Blaine. It's owned by a private equity company, Lakeshore Management. In 2019, when I moved in, the lot rent was only $535 a month. Now it is $775 plus our water and sewer. That's a $240 increase plus water and sewer in 6 years. Prior to living at Park of Four Seasons, I lived in a park that was privately owned. I lived at that park for 12 years, and the rent only went up $60 in 12 years. Last year, a private equity company bought that park, and they increased the rent $200 a month. I certainly did not expect my lot rent to increase so fast, and now I am fearful of how much it will increase. I know a lot of residents here are already paying up to and over $1,000 a month. By raise of hand, how many of you are paying up to or over $1,000? Not cool. And keep this in mind, it is literally for just the dirt underneath our homes. And even though they say mobile, they can't be moved because of their age or the lease restrictions, or it costs $15,000 to $20,000. My husband and I were self-employed, but unfortunately we went out of business last year. We fell behind on our rent and we had to apply for the hardship program. We almost lost our home for $1,600. This was very stressful. In August, we caught up on our rent. In November, we need to pay the rent 2 days late. It's due by the 5th. On the 6th, the office sent us an email saying that we needed to come down and apply for a hardship program 1 day late. On the 7th, 2 days late, after paying the rent and the late fee, we received an eviction notice. Right? I have paid the rent late before, but this had never happened before I went on the hardship program. I really felt like I was being harassed at this time. Because of the rapid increase in lot rent, I go to 3 food shelves a month, so I don't have to spend so much money on groceries. We also had to cut back on many other things, like eating out. We don't do it. Cable, I don't have it. We use antenna. Hobbies, nope. Medical and medication, didn't have it and wasn't taking it. My granddaughter, who I am raising, is always asking to do things, go places, and eat out. My answer is always the same. No, we can't afford to do that. She is 9 years old, and she can't join any extracurricular activities because I don't have the time or the money. My granddaughter feels very isolated, and last year Christmas was pretty tough. At Park of Four Seasons, the tornado shelters leak and the doors don't work. One of them is currently being held closed by a rock. There is a broken culvert that they covered with rock and said that they fixed it. Now the drainage system doesn't work, and they had to fix 8 sinkholes, not potholes, sinkholes. Now it looks like there's a sinkhole forming in my driveway. The lighting is bad, and the pool is never open. When it is open, it's only open 9 to 5 when everybody is working or at school. They no longer pick up bags of leaves, a service they used to provide. The water rates vary from under $20 a month to $100 a month. They're inconsistent about enforcing the rules. and they do not respond to us. This is what's happening in my park. I bet there's a lot going on in a lot of other parks too. When I get my rent increase this year, I'm afraid it's going to be so high that I will have to sell my home. I don't want to do that. I want to stay in my home. We need to work together to build people power. We can't give up. A lot of us could lose our homes because we no longer can afford the lot rent. Some of us could lose our homes to bad managers that take advantage of no one enforcing them. Many of us could have costly expenses because there is no definition of who is responsible for trees, driveways, or electric pedestals. None of us should be living in fear of losing our homes. Passing this law would protect us from paying for upkeep that they should have to pay for, not us. Plus, when they increase the lot rent to cover expenses, we pay that forever, not when they're reimbursed. It would also help keep the rent from rapidly increasing and maybe keeping it affordable. Thank you. I'm going to hand this off to another resident, Kathy Wright.
Hi, my name is Kathy Wright. I'm a resident at Brandondale in Chaska. And a lot of my remarks are going to be addressed to the representatives in the House and Senate here because I don't need to preach to the choir. You all know what's happening. So anyway, as I said, I live in Brandondale, which is one of the larger manufactured home communities in Minnesota. In our park, we have a healthy blend of people ranging from lifelong Minnesotans to new Minnesotans, from born citizens to naturalized citizens, from families starting out saving for something bigger to senior citizens who have downsized. We represent education levels ranging from high school to master's degrees. We are blessed to share our park with people of other cultures, as well as being able to provide a safe space for disabled neighbors. Thank you. I mention this in the hopes of having everybody see us for who we are. We are Minnesota residents being extorted by corporations and private equity firms. Unfortunately, we, the residents, have limited resources to fight on our own behalf. Advocating for ourselves became necessary 4 years ago when Brandondale was purchased by Haven Park, one of the private equity firms, and our lives changed for the worse. In Brandondale, our lot rents have increased 63% in the last 4 years, when it took 25 years with other owners for the same increase. High rents are a problem for current residents on fixed incomes like senior citizens, especially when the lot rent increases are higher than the annual cost of living adjustment for Social Security. This has forced some seniors and disabled residents to come out of retirement to find work, while others are unable to work due to health concerns, are faced with tough decisions. High lot rents are making it impossible to sell homes. Incoming residents at Brandondale are charged $1,000 for lot rent, plus forced to pay $95 for yard maintenance. This is the monthly rate. The amount is so high that banks will not finance home mortgages when they know buyers must also pay $1,095 a month. Consequently, the only hope for selling a home is to find a buyer who has cash. This is catastrophic if a resident passes away or must move to health reasons. with the inability to sell your house if lot rent is unpaid for just 1 month. The park owner can take possession of the home after 45 days.
That's not right.
No, it's not right. We have also had our services cut in addition to having the rent go up. We no longer have leaf and branch trimmings removed or driveways plowed for seniors. Our utilities are a disaster. We only have about 25% of our streetlights working, plus some of the streetlights are wired into residents' electrical lines. The water lines are constantly being repaired while our water services are cut off. With as much as we pay for lot rent, these issues should be fixed. At this point, we have no bargaining rights. Against all odds, with a dedicated core of door knockers, we obtain more than enough households to create a residents' association. Very proud of that. However, without legal repercussions, the hopes of having our problems addressed are non-existent. We need your help and ask that you pass the Manufactured Home Bill of Rights. This is not a partisan issue. This is a moral issue. We respectfully ask that you listen to your voting constituents and not the money. Thank you, and rest in peace, Melissa Hertman.
It's a topic you probably don't hear a ton about, manufactured home residents and their rights that they have with rent increases and whatnot. And this is a big hot button issue, and that's why you had so many people, legislators, and common folks too at the Capitol today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been something that's been gaining a lot of steam, clearly by all the numbers that they were citing there, doing the door knocking, and it's something that, you know, a cap in rent and giving these people the opportunity to possibly buy back their communities when all these real estate companies are buying up all these manufactured homes. It's a really big deal.
It is. It is. Well, as this story continues to develop and hopefully they're able to vote on something or pass something, we'll continue to bring it to you. Speaking of voting on something, the Boundary Waters in the Senate, the U.S. Senate, not just the Minnesota Senate, they're going to vote on this next week. This is a huge thing for our friends at the Boundary Waters. People are very passionate about this issue.
Absolutely, and it could have wide-reaching implications from the economy to wildlife all across the state of Minnesota and other places too.
That's right. Lucas Leaf is a Boundary Waters sportsman. He'll be joining us next to talk all about this vote happening in the Senate next week. Don't go anywhere. HJ Resolution 140. It might sound foreign to you now, but this is going to be big news here in the state of Minnesota in the next several days. Big votes happening in Washington next week.
Yeah, it could radically affect the protections around the boundary waters, which we hold dearly near in our hearts here in Minnesota.
That's right. One person that has the boundary waters close to his heart is Lucas Leaf, a sportsman that does a lot of outdoor activities at the boundary waters. Lucas, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Can you just talk about what the boundary waters mean to you and your involvement in that region?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The boundary waters sort of shaped, me as the outdoorsman I am today. I started going when I was 12 years old with my dad and his buddies for spring opener lake trout fishing. And, I've been going every year since, have spent nearly 250, nights, overnights, camping, fishing, hunting, hiking in the boundary waters. I currently work as the executive director for Sportsmen for the Boundary Waters, and our main goal is to, protect the boundary waters and the surrounding regions from similar issues like this proposed copper nickel mine and conservation minded issues for future generations.
Now, Lucas, for those that don't know, what exactly are they voting on today? What is the vote being held about?
Yeah, so a little background, right? In 2023, the Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland, under the Biden administration, instituted what's called a 20-year mineral withdrawal in the Rainy River watershed of northeast Minnesota. That's roughly 225,000 acres protected from future mineral leasing, in particular for copper nickel mining, like this proposed Twin Metals mine we're talking about today. Most recently, House Joint Resolution 140 passed the House. And what it aims to do is overturn that 20-year mineral withdrawal. And not only overturn it, it's sort of an unprecedented use of what's called a Congressional Review Act. And traditionally, that Congressional Review Act has only been used for federal land plans. This is a federal land action or a public land order. So overturning that, it's sort of a test case, right? If this is successful and passes in the Senate, this use of this procedural measure could be applied across the board to similar protections that, in the nation that have been put in place since like 1996 at this point. So really unprecedented use of this procedural measure, and then also bars future administrations from putting forth similar protections in the future. So just a bad situation. And it has passed the House, and it is potentially up for a vote next week in the Senate.
Lucas, when we talk about bills that go through Congress, oftentimes we kind of get lost in the jargon and things have so many formalities. Let's personalize it a little bit. What would this mean to you if this passed in the Senate?
Well, I mean, this would mean that, much needed protections for the area would be overturned and would have, dire implications, not only for, the water-rich environment that the boundary waters encompasses, but also future generations' opportunities to be able to experience this place, the outdoor traditions that we all cherish as hunters, anglers, birders, hikers across the board. But also, it has implications for the very robust outdoor economy up north that the boundary waters supports. But yeah, personally for me, I mean, if this mine were to be put in place, and if it were to pollute, and currently this type of mining has a terrible track record across the board, water rich or arid environments, it would mean that my children, I have twin girls, 6 years old, would not be able to experience this place as I have.
Lucas, I want to get back. You mentioned the possible economic ramifications, and I want to get back to that a little bit later. But the first place that my mind goes to is the wildlife, the animals around there, and all the critters that call home around the boundary waters. How would this, if this was passed, how would this affect the wildlife in the area?
Well, I think it's twofold, right? One, if it were to pollute, again, toxic heavy metals, it's called acid mine drainage. This flows directly into the boundary waters, has extreme negative effects on the aquatic species that trickles up into the flora and fauna, right? I mean, it is absolutely a cascade effect if it were to pollute the waterways that run directly in and out of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, all the way into Rainy Lake, all the way into Voyageurs National Park, all the way up into Canada. into Hudson Bay. And secondly, this is a unique and world-class, recreational area where you have opportunities to go fishing. You have opportunities to see moose, lynx, wolves, loons, our state bird. It's so important that we take the time to understand that these places are the most critical landscapes that we need to protect. We're not creating new ones. We need to ensure that they're here for future generations to experience as we have.
Lucas, what do you think the odds are when the Senate does vote on this next week that it'll get passed? I mean, are you feeling confident that it'll be a no? How are you feeling right now?
I think we should be very happy with the groundswell of support across the board from both, hunting and fishing, the hunting and fishing community to the environment community to left and right. Like, everybody has really come together on this, and you can see that through what's happening, at the state and federal levels on social media. We can hope that we are, making some headway here and turning some votes, especially because we do need some Republican senators to join us on this. And the implications of utilizing the Congressional Review Act for other protections across the nation should definitely be swaying some votes, because this isn't just about the Boundary Waters. This is about everywhere right now.
Lucas, now, thousands and thousands, maybe even millions of people have some type of job or way of living that is tied to the Boundary Waters. I mean, you're a sportsman. We've had the Friends of the Boundary Waters on here. There's countless fishermen and hunters and all types of people that have jobs and their livelihoods tied to the Boundary Waters. Now, if this bill was passed, how would that affect the economy surrounding the Boundary Waters?
Well, right now it supports roughly 17,000 jobs and billions of dollars in economic funding throughout the region, and that's only going to increase. The idea here is that the Boundary Waters itself is the backbone for that outdoor industry, and can remain so in perpetuity if it is protected the right way. And it really means that the short-term gain of some jobs for this mining project do not outweigh what the Boundary Waters currently provides for the outdoor economy. And that just spreads and trickles out all the way across the board into smaller businesses, outfitters, hotels, restaurants, right? Like, everybody is coming up north to experience that, is buying gear, is staying there, is going to those restaurants and staying at those hotels and providing and supporting those jobs that, the Boundary Waters does as well.
Lucas, you talked about the swell of support that's coming in for senators here. One of those people was the great-grandson of President Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was known as our nation's conservation president. How much pull do you think Teddy Roosevelt's great-grandson has in something like this?
Well, he should have some pull. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt is the forefather of creating some of these, areas, and the idea of, protecting these vast wilderness landscapes for future generations. So I'd like to think that letter that was sent has a fair amount of sway. And he was also in DC, advocating on behalf of this as well. And, at Sportsmen for the Boundary Waters, we're very happy that he took the time to do that.
Yeah.
Lucas, now, is there any recourse if this bill is passed? Is it over? Hypothetically, or what is the recourse if this bill is passed? Is there still something that can be done to help protect the Boundary Waters?
Right. So, both Senator Tina Smith and Representative Betty McCollum of Minnesota have legislation that aims to permanently protect the area from copper nickel mining. But if this resolution were to pass the Senate potentially next week, if it gets that vote, we are in a situation where it opens up the opportunity for this administration to reinstate leases to the mining company, which is also owned by a foreign mining conglomerate out of Chile called Antofagasta. Now, once and if those leases are renewed, we head to kind of the state fight, which is the mine plan of operations, state permitting. So it's far from shovels in the ground. There's plenty of opportunities to still prevent this project from happening, but we'd sure like to see this Senate vote swing our way. So it'd be a big win.
Lucas Leaf, a sportsman with the Boundary Waters, we really do appreciate your time and your perspective on all this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks. We've covered that. We really have been on top of the story. We've really covered it. The executive director of the Friends from the Boundary Waters, and now Lucas. There's a lot of people that really are passionate about this.
Like he said, it's a world-class area. It's tied to millions, billions of dollars here in the local economy, and it just means a whole lot to a lot of people here in the Twin Cities. They grew up with it. It's a part of their lives. It's a part of their livelihoods. And like Lucas said, it's something that it's whatever short-term game you can have from mining. It's provided that a bajillion-fold in years past and years stretching forward, because it's always going to be there. You know, like hopefully, fingers crossed, it's always going to be there. So it's a really important thing, and hopefully they can get the protection for it that the people want.
Yeah, it feels like this is like the ultimate outdoorsy area in the state of Minnesota, and a state filled with so many great ones. This seems to kind of be the crown jewel of it, and it's crazy that the United States Senate's going to be voting on its future next week, potentially.
Absolutely. And like Lucas said, this has far-reaching implications, that this wouldn't just roll back protections here in Minnesota for the Boundary Waters, but it could roll back protections almost anywhere across all of the United States of America.
For sure. Up near the Boundary Waters right now, I don't have my geography of Minnesota down pat, but I think they might be under a blizzard warning up there. I know it's pretty far north, and it's on the North Shore, right? I think so.
You're talking about where it's being pounded with snow, or are you talking about the Boundary Waters?
Where the Boundary Waters are. I think it's being pounded with snow right now.
Yeah, I bet it is.
There's snow all across the state, and coming up next, we're going to have Ian Leonard at the big board profiling the whole state, showing us where all the snow is. I think there's snow coming down right here in the Twin Cities right now too.
Yeah, I mean, last I checked, when I looked out the window, it was snowing sideways. Like I said, we were in the fake spring. Now we're in the second winter.
It's crazy.
It's just funny. That's Minnesota weather for you. So, and no better person to talk to than Ian Leonard.
That's right. Ian's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Yesterday they were forecasting 1 inch for the Twin Cities. You just saw the weather cams during that commercial break of Eden Prairie. That doesn't look like 1 inch to me. That looks like a lot more than that.
Looks like a lot more, and it's been going pretty much ever since we stepped foot in the building this morning at 9.
It has. Ian Leonard, Fox 9's chief meteorologist, has been tracking all of it.
That's my intro?
What else?
They really screwed this up. Hey, and now here's Ian.
I didn't say it was you that was forecasting
Well,
the inch.
who's they?
Somebody was.
Big weather.
my God.
See,
Okay.
big weather.
Big weather
You're
was.
not in the pockets of big weather. You're not bought off by big weather.
This is the
big
problem.
winter.
People will get in the car and they'll drive. And I mean, I love all the local radio stations. I love my guys at K-Fan. I love, Dave Ryan at KDWB. I love them all. But, they'll be like, hey, there's going to be about an inch of snow, and now here's John Cougar Mellencamp. And you're driving and you're going, oh, they say there's going to be an inch. So you get here, and then there isn't an inch, and then you bring me on, and I'm here going.
I didn't attribute it to you. I just said somebody forecasted that.
Set you up.
Somebody random. I was on a bus with this guy, and he told me there's going to be an inch of snow, and you can take that to the bank. Okay, so let's talk about this like grown-ups. Now, I mean, you're looking at this map, and pick up the circulation here, just to the north of the metro. That, my friends, is a big, deep area of low pressure. Now, two things happen with the low. You'll bring up the moisture out of the plenty of cold air here out of northern Canada. Good convergence zone for snow. The big thing here when you're forecasting is that on the backside of this area of low pressure, not at the surface, but anywhere between, say, 3,000 and 12,000 feet, there's some very cold air. And that cold air, once it gets down to where the low pressure area here begins to terminus, where it actually is, that cold air is heavier. It's more dense than warm air. So it gets into the back of the low and it just drops to the ground. This is a dry slot, so cold air can't hold as much moisture as warm air. There's the dry slot, and my gosh, you go up to Forest Lake, and people in Forest Lake are going, we didn't get an inch. What's Adam talking about? Maybe he was riding the bus with that guy who told me we were going to get 15 inches. Now, where they did get the snow, and it is big, in a big, big way, is off to the north. Notice how clear it is here. All the way up 94, you're like, I think there's some snow in the distance. But where you see the brightest white right here, on radar reads the atmosphere. And where it encounters objects, we call them hydrometeors, it bounces back. Where it finds bigger hydrometeors, it bounces back and makes a brighter signal. That's where you see this corridor here coming into the West Metro of very bright white. You look out the window right now and you're like, well, he's right. Them are some big snowflakes. I don't know why I just came up with that southern accent, but I did, so live with it. So there's the pipeline right there stretching all the way back. So I call this Grant, Stevens, Pope, and Douglas County. I'll call that the Four Brothers. And here it comes down through Candy, Ojai, into Sibley County, and smashes here into the West Metro. So it's a very narrow band of blowing big snowflakes, wind whip snow, by the way, at 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. Where we have some big snow, West Metro, from Minneapolis here out into parts of Hennepin County, southern Wright County stretching down into Carver, Scott, McLeod County. That's where we've got the biggest snowflakes and the greatest likelihood here of, say, 3 to 4 inch accumulations as everything tapers off tonight. I'll put it back in motion so you can see it all rolling on through. The big, big snow was here along the North Shore. You've heard of lake effect snow, right? We've all heard of it, especially if you're like Buffalo Bills fan when it comes to the NFL season. They're like, we need some people to help us shovel out the stadium. There's so much snow. Well, this is an inverted lake effect snow. So instead of Buffalo being on the south side of the lake here, it is Grand Marais, Silver Bay, Two Harbors. They're all on the north side of the lake. Notice the wind, the fetch of wind working along the water picks up moisture, and as it hits the shore, it just releases it all. There's a little tiny bit of lift in the atmosphere there. We call that orographic lifting, where you hit from the lake into some surface features that lift the air. There's a little tiny town here. It's not even a town. It's an unincorporated township, I think, from Grand Marais as you're going up toward Thunder Bay, Canada. Lord Thunder and Bay, Canada there. You end up in a little tiny town called Hovland. So far today, they've had 27 inches of snow. And I'm sure you can imagine, it's not like there's 10 snowplow guys in Hovland going, okay, guys, let's go.
There's one guy that's cashing out, though. He's like, hell yeah.
There's one guy, there's one guy playing like solitaire at the bar going, I can't get out there. It's too much snow. They've closed the highway all the way down to Duluth. It is almost impassable. Silver Bay, Two Harbors, 18, 19 inches. Lutsen, good news for, I guess, Minnesota skiers, almost 20 inches. So plenty of lake effect snow here. But you notice, as it dumps all the snow here, the further north you go, that's going to ride. So everything here is running around that area of low pressure. So the moisture is running back into that cold air, and you notice it almost shuts it off. And that's the way it snows here on this Wednesday, February. What? I don't even know what day is it. What is it, 18th?
I don't know.
18th. That was a good Walter Cronkite.
Did you like that? That's the way it snows.
I like that. Hovland, shout out to them. 27 inches today. That's insane.
Serious snow. Now, we still have all these advisories. The blue area is a winter weather advisory. That's generally issued. But what a winter weather advisory says, there's going to be some snow and the roads will be somewhat difficult. It doesn't talk about really snowfall totals. The red area is blizzard warnings. Down here toward Redwood and Renville counties, we've had plenty of reports of reduced visibility down to about a quarter mile with some very heavy snow. It's nasty travel here along the Minnesota River Valley, and that's where you've got a blizzard warning too, all along the North Shore. To technically be a blizzard warning, you need visibility less than a quarter mile for at least 3 hours and winds to gust, well, it's 58, but we call it 60 miles per hour, at least 60 miles per hour winds through that entire 3-hour period. I mean, that translation, real nasty.
Yeah, it sounds like they're getting hit real hard, Ian. Man, yeah, I'm sure they're like, all right, we're getting the brunt of it. But everybody's cool with some snow on a Wednesday. Nobody's cool with snow on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So what's the weekend looking like?
Okay,
Ian?
so think about this. Last week, 40s and 50s, and I was saying on the air, don't get used to this. It's mid-February. It was Fool's Spring, and if you're scoring at home, Fool's Spring #1. Then we get back into winter today. Now look, as we get into the weekend, I think you look for highs around the mid-20s. So just slightly below average. It will feel a little cooler. Most of this, at least here from, say, Mille Lacs off to the south, is going to melt. The stuff up to the north here, we've got a swath going all the way back to Brainerd and Bemidji of 6 to 9 inches. That's all going to be around the better part of the weekend. But then as we blink and look toward early next week, high temperatures back in the mid to upper 30s. Fake spring #2 comes rolling along. And if you've been here long enough, you realize we end up with about 5 fake springs before we're finally done with it. And I want you to take you back to March of last year. We had almost a foot of snow for the month. But our March is a lot like Denver snow. You'll get a dump, like 6 inches, and it melts literally 18 hours later. And you're like, whoa, what happened? Everything's so wet. I don't know why I keep using that accent. And then 2 days later, boom, another 6 inches of snow, and it's gone 2 days later. So that's the transition point now toward the end of February and into March. We are going to get snow. Statistically, we get it every year in February and March. It doesn't hang around long. So it's going to be slushy. It's going to be sloppy, Max, to your question. It's not going to be overly warm this weekend, but it's not going to be the bitterly cold single-digit temperatures that we had for highs with sub-zero wind chills back in January. By the way, we went from just before Christmas, I think it's December 18th or 19th, I won't get that perfect. We went from then until today. This is our first snowfall above 2 inches in that entire period. January was kind of a snow drought.
Yeah, it was freezing temperatures.
Exactly, real cold.
You've been talking about these fake springs.
I told you I didn't coin the phrase. It's something that Minnesotans are very familiar with.
And all last week everyone's outside with t-shirts and shorts, like leaning on their lawn furniture, going, "This is great. We're going to be having barbecues before you know it." And now they're like, "I'll go shovel the driveway."
Ian, I forgot to ask you, when you're done being a weatherman, are you ever going to be the mayor of an unincorporated township? and what would the name of your unincorporated township be?
It's like what is it in Animal House where he's like that's Eric Stratton, Rush Chairman. He's damn glad to meet you. That'd be me, Ian Leonard, mayor of unincorporated township. Damn glad to meet you. You know what? I will crave areas outside the spotlight. I will crave like 40 acres and just hanging out and not doing much. And if that means cutting down a tree or shooting an arrow or I don't even know what, digging a hole, I'm good with all that, just as long as I don't have to wear makeup anymore.
Ian, we do appreciate you, and everybody out there that's commuting home today, go slow. Like Ian said, it's going to be super slushy and sloppy. And
Yep. Well, I like to say tapper cool.
Yeah.
That means you're not too hard on the gas, not too hard on the brake. Just tapper cool.
But there's still travel warnings in those places that are getting hit real hard, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the highways closed all along the North Shore. MnDOT is saying travel not advised here, and wisely, right? We're talking about some pockets here of a foot of snow. That stuff doesn't get cleared off the roads right away. Here, down off to the Minnesota River Valley from the metro down toward Mankato, these roads are all snow covered. And MnDOT very, very smartly doesn't the first snowflake. They're like, okay, boys, let's go. Boys and girls, let's get out there. No. You wait until the snow accumulates somewhat, so you're using your resources carefully. Look for the overnight and into the day. I mean, the men and women of MnDOT, they're amazing in those plows. By the way, the name of speed plow, did you guys cover that at all?
No.
The best one this year was Sled Zeppelin.
Sled Zeppelin.
Yes.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
Or you're a Blizzard Harry. You're a Blizzard Harry. That's a good one, too. I like that one.
Oh, people are so creative with these. I love reading them every single year.
And
I'm just going to start pocketing them, the ones that don't get chosen that are still good, and I'm just going to have a bunch and just submit them all.
Yeah, I mean, I said, yes, you look at that, and I'm like, wow, I thought I was kind of witty and smart. I'm not even close when I read that list of names, right?
That's awesome. Thank you, Ian. We appreciate it.
Thanks, my friends. Next week, if I'm back on, I'll bring snacks.
Perfect.
Please
perfect,
do.
Perfect. That's nasty out there. I will say, just looking at the map for my commute home, it's increased by 15 minutes since we started the show. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's where it's limited at. But it does look kind of gross out there.
Yeah, it's going to be greasy out there. It's going to be sloshy. All of that. It's snowing sideways, literally outside right now.
Yeah, I just don't understand how we could go from like we were talking about the 50 degrees and
That's
sun.
Minnesota. That's the true Minnesota experience. It's a
crazy.
whiplash, weather whiplash.
Crazy. We're tracking the weather. We're also tracking what's going on inside the Capitol building. We took Senator Hoffman's speech yesterday, the tributes to Melissa Hortman, and now we're going to bring in Tim Blotz to tell us all about what's going to happen during this legislative session.
Yeah, after an emotional day, I would imagine that everybody now is kind of looking forward to what actually might go down in this legislative session. Nobody quite knows fully to what to expect, but if there's anybody that could predict it, it's Fox 9's own Tim Blotz.
That's right. Tim Blotz coming up next. Don't go anywhere. back, we're going to be talking some legislative session coming up next year, Max.
Yeah, after an emotional opening of the legislative session yesterday, it's time to get down to business for the lawmakers.
That's right. That's right. We have Fox 9 anchor Tim Blotz here to tell us more. Tim, thanks for being here.
I love hanging with you guys. This is so much fun, and especially today, we get to be inside and not outside.
Right. That is a huge benefit. That's a huge benefit. We love having you here. What are some of the hot button issues that Minnesota lawmakers are going to have to face?
You know, there's going to be a lot of discussion and a lot of different topics this year, but you have to keep in mind that the legislature is evenly divided. And even House Speaker Lisa Demuth said yesterday, as they were kicking everything off, that that any bill that comes forward is going to need bipartisan support, right? So they're evenly split down the middle in the House. They only have a one-vote majority. That is, the DFL has a one-vote majority in the state Senate. So anything that passes is going to have to get support from both parties. So it is that simple. So all of these hot-button issues, like firearms, tax cuts, is going to be in my estimation, is going to be hard for them to get through. I was our Capitol reporter for a number of years before I moved onto the 7 o'clock show here about 6 years ago. And so I know the process pretty well. I know how this can shake out. Anything can happen, all right? And sometimes anything does happen in the final week, in the final 48 hours of the legislative session. But I would be, I think for a whole host of reasons, we're going to see a very pragmatic legislative session this year. They're going to get done what they have to get done, and none of the big social issues and party driver issues that may come along. Now, and there's another reason for that, too. We have 201 members of the state legislature. They're all up for re-election in the fall.
That's wild.
Okay? So you got election party politics that are going to play out in all of this, and the fact that they're evenly divided. So you're probably going to see some votes. Like, for example, it's entirely possible that the Democrats, especially in the Senate, because they have a one-vote majority, will try and force some votes on gun safety legislation for the sole purpose of getting Democrats or getting Republicans on the voting record of voting against it, so they have campaign fodder for the fall to take out to the voters. So you're probably going to see some gamesmanship like that on both sides. But there are some agenda items that they do have. And I want to talk about a couple of them here, especially in the House. Let's talk about some of the GOP, the Republican issues first, if I might. They want to pass House File 1, which passed the Senate last year. And this would create an Office of Inspector General to start looking at the fraud issues that have been occurring with our social programs in the past couple of years, okay? So that's a priority for them. Did not pass the House last year, so they want another go of that. House File 3396, which would create a property tax task force to figure out why property taxes are so high and rising across the state. Okay, so that's a priority of the Republicans. Another one is what's called a tax conformity bill. Now, every year there's always a tax conformity bill to align state taxes with changes in the federal tax code. Okay, and this year there's a couple of big changes in the federal tax code that Republicans passed last year, namely no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime. Okay, so what tax conformity would do is align the state tax code with the federal tax code, so it's easier for all of us to file, right? And this is always one of the first bills that they try and pass, so that people filing their taxes right now, so they can get these changes into the turbo taxes of the world, right, to update their software. So so that when you're filing your taxes, you can get these tax breaks. So that's always going to be one of the big bills, and that could be a hot button issue with Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the Democratic side, they've got a number of bills, and a couple of that they introduced this week. One of them, House File 3435, that would prevent ICE agents at schools. So a lot of these driven by the events here the last 2 months. Another one, House File 3412, I believe it is, would ban law enforcement officers from wearing masks. And then there's another one on shooting investigations. They want the BCA to be involved in all shooting investigations, even federal, those involving federal agents. Now, GOP has already said that some of those bills could be very problematic because they involve separation of powers, right? So there's some legal questions about whether state laws can force a change at the federal level on federal laws. So that's just some of the dynamics that will likely be playing out this legislative session.
Tim, you touched on it a little bit there, but do you think that the recent events, because this is the first legislative session since Melissa Hortman was assassinated, since Hoffman was shot, and obviously the ICE occupation of Minnesota,
and the Annunciation school shooting.
The Annunciation shooting as well. Like, how did those events? Obviously, they're going to completely inform this entire session, right? Do you think they're like changing? Those events have changed bills? Are they going to inspire a different kind of session than we're used to seeing?
That's an awesome question, Max, and I think it gets at the heart of exactly what people want this session to be about. Because it's an election year and because these are really controversial kind of issues playing out, I think a lot of people will be optimistic that something would be done. I'm not convinced that it will. And, I keep going back to Senator Hoffman's floor speech yesterday in the Senate. And I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
Yes.
And, he implored people to listen to each other, that let's do the work for the people of Minnesota, because remember, that's what we are here for. And you got a standing ovation after all of that, too. So how much of that sinks in? Let's wait to see how it does. But I again, getting back to the even division within the state legislature, it's going to be extremely difficult, I think, Max, to advance some of these polarizing issues in pieces of legislation.
Yeah. Do you think that? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you think that, just to follow up on that, because that has kind of been the common theme from a lot of politicians ever since the assassination, and then after the ICE occupation as well. You're seeing politicians on both sides talking about turning the temperature down, talking about needing to reach across the aisle. We saw Lisa Demuth talk about that yesterday, and her friendship with Melissa Hortman. Like, is that all just posturing, or do you think that we can actually get there in light of recent events? Because we're obviously, as a nation, we're pretty damn divided. But after this last month or so, it feels like Minnesotans, at least, are a little bit closer than we were before this thing started.
You'd like to think the events of the past couple of months have maybe been a light for the rest of the nation. I'm skeptical. And just call me skeptical, as being a reporter who's been doing this a long time. Yes, I have your hope, Max.
Yeah,
I do, and but I know how people get locked into their corners, and we've seen it play out, especially now in the past 10 years, even the last more so since 2016, and I think we all know what happened in 2016. So, and with the election of a new administration and how the country just kind of kept pulling further and further apart. And by the way, an excellent article in the New York Times yesterday too, kind of talking about that, how the Obama administration and those who were advising Obama and even the president himself did not read the changes in public opinion in the country that led to Donald Trump getting elected in 2016. And really, and they go back and they talk to David Axelrod about what they missed in reading the mood of the country and how it was shifting underneath them and why and how they missed it. So that article in the New York Times yesterday, I thought it was very very thought-provoking to read that, all these years later.
Tim, you mentioned 201 lawmakers in the Minnesota Capitol, all of them up for re-election this year. How has that shaped their decision making when they're going about voting and whatnot? Are they really going to be, you think, voting with their hearts? Are they going to be voting with their constituents and hoping to keep their job, essentially?
Both. No question about it. They're going to be voting with what they can go out on the campaign trail with and run with. I mean, let's be realistic. Let's be honest. Again, I'm a bit of a skeptic on that because I've seen this play out time and time again over my career. And yes, you want to think that they're going to vote their conscience on a lot of these issues, and maybe they will. But when it comes down to it, electoral politics is going to perhaps play an influence here. Mm-hmm. It really does. I want to be optimistic as Max is, and I love that about you, Max. That's great.
I don't think too many people would call me an optimist, so I appreciate that.
I think so. I'm going to call you one. How about that?
I appreciate
right?
that. Yeah.
Right. I love your energy, and I love everything about what you two guys bring to this program every afternoon. It's just fun to be a part of and fun to watch and be a part of. But I think that pragmatism is perhaps going to play out here in this legislative session. I hope that I'm surprised, but I think the fact that you've got an evenly divided legislature is really in the fact that, again, going back to Lisa Damoth on Monday saying that every bill that advances is going to need bipartisan support. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it'll be fun to watch. Yeah. I mean, I love this. I wrote a note to my colleagues, Corin Hoggard today, who's now our Capitol guy, and Russ, who was there, and Scott Keller, who was there yesterday, and got the video of Senator Hoffman walking back into the Senate and up the Senate stairs. There's a lot of me that's incredibly envious and jealous of them because I still consider it to be one of the best reporting assignments I've had in my career was that time I spent at the state capitol.
Yeah. Couldn't have a better succession from going from you to Corin. I mean, just
Corin,
two absolute goats, best of the best.
I've got deep respect for Corin and my colleagues there. Yeah. So they're doing a great job.
We've kind of been, talking about all of this stuff on the macro, more so level, a lot of more hardcore kind of controversial things. Not to say that this next issue isn't controversial, but it's something that it feels like it has bipartisan support and it's been on people's minds for a long time. Obviously, very less serious compared to everything else. But what's the deal with sports gambling?
And that's an awesome question. Awesome question. I don't see it happening this year. And in fact, Speaker Damoth was talking about it the other day, even saying that she doesn't see a pathway for it perhaps in this session. And they've come so close, and they've worked very hard with our Native American communities, right, who are sovereign nations and hold those compacts to allow this. So anything that has to pass in this state has to pass with their sign-off, right? How are we going to include them in that final passage? And you got folks like former Representative Pat Garofalo, who worked on this issue for years and has been a leading voice on that in the past, and so desperately wanted to pass it during his time in the state legislature, and it didn't happen for a whole host of reasons. But anything is possible, right? Right. Yeah. Anything is possible. But when you have the Speaker of the House saying that perhaps not this year, that says volumes in my mind.
Right? Yeah, the sports betting seems like the ultimate bipartisan issue because, I don't know, Republicans and Democrats both love to bet on games. I don't see why there's any.
Well, it's revenue for the state, right?
And it's revenue for the state.
But there are also a lot of side issues too. There are also social issues that come with this, from gambling addiction to kids. How do you prevent kids from doing it? Right. So there's a lot of things that they need to look at in all of this, and not to mention the biggest one is how do you include our tribal nations in this, our sovereign tribal nations?
100%. Right.
Yeah.
is there anything that you think can actually pass? We keep talking about all the divisions, and is there any issue that you see that has?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there probably will. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in tax conformity. But last year they've had trouble passing a bonding bill the past couple of years. They passed a substantial one last year. I want to say it was in the ballpark of $700 million. Let me back up. I'm talking in legislative speak right now. A bonding bill is it's a borrowing bill, but often lawmakers and those in greater Minnesota call it the jobs bill or the construction bill, because what the state does is they borrow money for construction projects, for state infrastructure projects. So water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, help building a new firehouse in greater Minnesota. Buildings at our university campuses, that's always a very big one too. I've got a friend who's now works at the U and says there's going to be a big ask from the U this year in their bonding bill request. So that's always a very popular bill, especially in greater Minnesota, where this has a very positive impacts on jobs and stability and infrastructure. And every lawmaker wants to go back to their district, especially in an election year, and say, I helped build that hospital wing, or I got you the fire department that you needed, or that water treatment plant that we've had that's been crumbling for the past 30 years is now finally going to get renovated, and so we can have safe, clean drinking water. So they tend to be very popular bills, and unfortunately, in the past 10 years or so, they've been held hostage at the end of the session as one party or another holds up their votes in the bonding bill in order to get votes in exchange for another pet policy of theirs. So we'll see how that plays out this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tim, I'm just I'm breaking some news right here. I'm reading that they just passed a bill, the Tim Blotz bill, where you're required. It's mandatory that you be on the afternoon shift every single week.
Oh my goodness, I would love this. Yeah. This is great. I love you guys. This is so much fun coming on in.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. We appreciate you.
Yeah. And one of these times, you know what? We got to resurrect our our beer tasting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Session that we had here. Oh my goodness, how long ago? That was like last summer.
I know. I've been waiting for that ever since.
The Bach beers are going to come out, so we should sample some of the different Bach beers that are produced by our local breweries here in the state. That would be a ton of fun.
Absolutely.
Just don't tell the boss.
Right. Yeah, right. We'll say it's NA. It's NA. It's NA. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Tim. We appreciate it.
Yeah, great. All right, guys.
Thank you. We're going to be doing our Black History Month profiles coming up next.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of highlights on some Black History Month figures that you may not have known about. All that and more coming up next on the afternoon shift.
more days of Black History Month. It's February 18th.
Absolutely. I extended a little bit past the 28th. I go until March 2nd.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
just to
It's
make
kind
up
of
for
like
those 2 lost days.
an extra leap year
Yeah.
for Black History Month.
Absolutely.
I dig it. I dig it. We're gonna go. Yesterday we did a joint segment on Jesse Jackson. Today we're doing 2 different individual people like we've been doing for a little bit now.
For sure. And we just found out during the commercial break we should have Tim Blotz in here to talk about Jesse Jackson.
You met him.
Interviewed him a number of times and knew him. I wouldn't say very well, but knew him.
Sure.
And said he loved his interactions with him. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. I will kick this off. We'll stay local here. I'm going to talk about Sheriff Dawana Witt, Hennepin County Sheriff Dawana Witt. We've been seeing a lot of her recently with all of the ICE press conferences and standing right next to Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Fry and Police Chief Brian O'Hara as well. The first woman and first person of color to be the Hennepin County Sheriff. The first Black woman sheriff in Minnesota history, Dawana Witt. So really made strides in a lot of different ways. Grew up in South Minneapolis, literally 1 block away from where George Floyd was murdered. Wow. And so took those experiences, went to St. Catherine University, graduated in 1999. Originally wanted to study chemical dependency and family therapy, but the volunteer work that she did there really gave her a chance to be out in the community, and she saw that as a way of giving back, and that's where she got the idea of maybe entering law enforcement as a way of giving back. She was a teen mother, kind of struggling, and decided on a whim to apply for a deputy job at the Hennepin County Jail. Kind of the rest is history. She's been in law enforcement for more than 2 decades. Started her career, like I said, as a detention deputy in Hennepin County. She was the first woman. She moved over to Dakota County, the first woman to ever reach the title of captain in the Dakota County Sheriff's Office. So made strides there, and then eventually kind of came back to Hennepin County and was elected sheriff in 2022. When that election happened back in 2022, I mean, the Today Show did a whole profile on her. Good Morning America did a whole profile on her. This was a really big deal, and I think especially in a state like Minnesota, not exactly in terms of racial diversity, doesn't have the racial diversity that a lot of other states have. To be the first,
I wouldn't say a lot, but
yes.
I know what you mean.
To be the first Black woman sheriff in Minnesota history, really big deal. And I was curious about how many Black sheriffs have been in Hennepin County Black sheriffs have been in Minnesota before her. Not that many. I mean, so I think she was like number 3 or number 4 in Minnesota history. Mm-hmm. But the first Black sheriff in Hennepin County history. Did a big thing with Jelly Roll when he visited Minneapolis. He was performing a show at US Bank Stadium last fall. Jelly Roll has done a lot of giving back and has talked to a lot of inmates at local jails in cities where he's performed. Sheriff Witt invited him in, and they did a joint speech there, and Jelly Roll kind of talking to the inmates about his experiences and life after lockup and how to stay out of how to lock up. I just think that Dawana, is a really inspirational person, and really making a lot of headway for progress here in Hennepin County. And so I wanted to tip my hat to Dawana Witt today, the first Black woman sheriff in Minnesota history, and the first woman sheriff in Hennepin County history as well.
Didn't think we'd get a Jelly Roll mention in the Black History Month.
Jelly Roll gets in. It was a personal invite from Sheriff Witt. Yes.
Look at that.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mine is Matthew Henson. He's an explorer, a pioneer, not just in Black exploration, but in American exploration. He accompanied, a famous explorer, Robert Peary, for 7 voyages to the Arctic, spending over 18 years exploring with one another. Their most famous expedition was their 1908-1909 expedition, in which they claimed to be they were the first people, not just Americans, the first people on the Earth to reach the geographic North Pole. It had never been discovered before, which at the time everybody kind of just took them for their word. Now there's some science behind it that says that maybe they were a little bit off of they weren't directly at the center of the North Pole, but at the time they were widely credited for being the first exploration group to reach the North Pole, first humans to reach the North Pole. And Henson himself claimed that he was the first among the group that actually reached the North Pole. So he may have well been the very first man ever
to have reached the geographic North Pole, which is just absolutely incredible. He was born to a family of free sharecroppers in Maryland. He's part of the first generation of Black Americans to roam the world post-abolition of slavery. He was born not that long after the emancipation, so imagine being a part of that generation, the very first generation of people that is not burdened by the heavy and possibly heavy weight of slavery. Unfortunately, obviously, racism didn't go away. His family was forced to move due to attacks by the KKK. They relocated to Georgetown. Both his father and his mother died at a young age, so he went to go live with his uncle, who also died not that long after he went to go live with his uncle. So he was orphaned at a pretty young age. And miraculously, he was able to make his way in life. But before, he started moving around to different towns. But at the age of 10, he was able to see a speech from Frederick Douglass, one of the most influential orators in American history, super influential figure in the civil rights era, the Reconstruction era, and the subsequent years after that. I mean, you can't tell the story of American history without talking about Frederick Douglass. And he was able to see this speech in which Douglass was, just highly encouraging for Black people to vigorously pursue education as best as they can and use that knowledge that they acquired to help them fight against racism. He was super inspired by that. I don't want to say that's the reason that eventually he started to explore the world, but he himself said he was super inspired by that. Not that long after that, a couple of years after that, he found his way to a port in Baltimore, where he actually became a cabin boy for a ship that traveled to places like China, traveled to places like Japan, a bunch of countries in North Africa and around the Black Sea, which is just incredible for a Black man of any person, at that time in American history, to be going around the world and seeing the things that he saw. And actually, the ship's captain, Captain Childs, took him under his wing, taught him how to read and write and all of that. He gained a bunch of experience along his travels with Captain Childs. Eventually, the captain died. He went to go back. He came back to D.C. He worked at a clothing store in there. That's where he met the aforementioned Robert Perry. But Perry quickly was already an explorer. He learned about Henson's abilities and expertise. He kind of recruited him over to survey on a survey expedition in Nicaragua. He saw just how talented this guy was, how multifaceted this guy was. And they spent the next 2 years together going through the rainforests of Central America. And after that, it pretty much was the rest is history, as they say. They kind of formed you would say a near inseparable bond. They ended up, unfortunately, falling apart a little bit later. But they spent the next 18 years after they returned from Central America. There was a brief period where they kind of just chilled. But the next 18 years they spent exploring the Arctic together. And Perry, he was the public face. he's a white guy. He's the guy that's getting all the credit, getting all the accolades. But Henson was really the heart of the expeditions. He was fluent in the Inuit language. He studied Inuit culture and their techniques for survival in that harsh Arctic climate. He was a skilled carpenter, craftsman, hunter, fisherman, and dog handler. So much so that they say he's the only non-Inuit person that was able to maneuver the dog sleds and train the dogs in the true Inuit way. I believe they had a nickname for him in Inuit that they called him. They called him what was it? Matthew the Kind One. Matthew the Kind One. He formed these bonds, that were really key and crucial to their expeditions and their explorations subsequently. And he was the one that taught all the new recruits, all the techniques. Again, Perry was kind of the guy that was, in the newspapers and doing the interviews, while Henson was really the guy that was the key to the mission and kind of the key cog to the mission, and they wouldn't have been able to survive without Henson. Then that's Perry's words himself. He said, they asked him, because he kind of got some flack, why you got this Black guy with you everywhere? He said, I can't not go anywhere with him. I'm literally incapable of doing this without him. Obviously, they got a bunch of fame from you would think they got a bunch of fame after their 1909 discovery of the North Pole, but Henson actually got little credit for it, which is not surprising considering the times. There's tons of Black people throughout history, some that will never know their names for the things that they contributed to history, unfortunately, because some random white dude got credit for it. Now, Perry's not a random white guy, but he got honors, he got accolades, he got all these different awards, and I'm sure a lot of money, and was able to parlay that into a successful life. While Henson
and worked as a clerk at the Federal Customs House, and it was recommended by Roosevelt at the time that he should work at the Customs House, but that's not really the hero's welcome that he probably should have deserved. He wasn't even recognized for his contributions. He got into some, kind of national club a little bit earlier, but he wasn't truly recognized for his contributions until 1946 when he got a medal from the Navy that Perry got immediately after their expedition. So finally, he got some recognition. 1954, he was invited to the White House, and unfortunately, he died the following year. But lived a hell of a life, a pioneer in American exploration, helped discover the Arctic North. I mean, he mapped out, the areas of Greenland. He just like his research was instrumental for our understanding of that area as we know it at the time. And there's a lot of books written about him. There's a fiction, a dramatized movie starring the now Oscar-nominated Delroy Lindo, one of the best actors in history. So I would love to check that out. He was in an episode of Scooby-Doo, apparently. They highlighted him in an episode of Scooby-Doo. He even made it into the lyrics of a Stevie Wonder song.
Which song?
It's called Black Man.
Okay.
It's called Black Man off the album The Songs in the Key of Life, which is often cited as one of the greatest albums in music history.
Yeah.
So obviously a very influential person. And just someone that you don't really ever get to hear about. And again, it's just one of those people that gets lost to time, unfortunately, because he didn't receive the accolades and the honors that he probably should have. But Matthew Henson, he's a real cool dude.
Cool that he at least got that White House invite shortly before his death. I guess that you said 1954, that would have been President Eisenhower. So good to get that recognition. But you're right. So many people have kind of come and gone without getting the proper credit and recognition that they deserve, because a lot of their contributions were given to people, maybe a white person or somebody else,
or they weren't properly given the chance to showcase their skills. That's one of the many insidious tendrils of
kind of like
racism.
New Jersey right here.
I was just about to say, Josh Gibson, one of the greatest baseball players of all time. I believe
some people say the greatest
baseball player of all time. It's kind of funny, he was nicknamed the Black Babe Ruth, but some people nicknamed Babe Ruth the White Josh Gibson because of how good he was. I think now that the Negro League statistics are incorporated in the MLB all-time statistics, he has the highest career batting average of all time. Some people say if you tally up all of his home runs, he had almost 800 home runs, which Barry Bonds even cited when he broke the home run record. But he never got to play in the MLB. He never got to showcase it on the grandest stage, on the biggest stage. And there's tons of athletes like him from that era that never truly got to showcase. And they did, on smaller stages and in different settings and different venues that were no doubt important and key contributions to Black life and culture at the time. But he never truly got to showcase his skills under the biggest spotlights and gotten the proper due, the proper pay, the proper fanfare that he should have gotten. And there's lots of people like that. Unfortunately, Matthew Henson's one of those people. But now he, unfortunately, years, decades after his death, he's finally starting to get recognition for the things that he contributed to society.
Yeah, and it's too bad that these people don't get the recognition while they're still alive, and it's all posthumous with a lot of these folks. I like the bonus Josh Gibson. Black History Month
I thought about going with Josh Gibson. I've been trying to avoid athletes, musicians, because I just tend
it's the default.
It is the default, and I think that's unfortunately that is the area of American history that people do tend to recognize that Black people contributed, but they fail to recognize all the different other areas, which is all areas of American life that Black people have contributed. So I have been trying to actively avoid, athletes and musicians. Not to say that there's not a ton. I could spend the whole month talking about just Negro League players. There's so many athletes that deserve, and boxers at the time, basketball players. There's so many athletes that do deserve this recognition during Black History Month. But again, I just feel like that's where people's minds go automatically. People know about the Jackie Robinsons of the world, and he's not the only one. But that again, I don't think even racists would know that Black people have contributed to American sports history and music history. I just think people fail to recognize that we've contributed to all facets of American history, culture, and life.
Absolutely. It's very, very, very true. I think that was awesome about Matthew Henson. Frankly, I didn't know. I think I looked him up. I recognized there was a photo of him I recognized, but I didn't know that was him. That was him. Right. So exactly. Very, very cool.
For sure. And in honor of the near Arctic-like weather outside of Matthew Henson. Yes. That's what made him come to mind.
Of going to the North Pole? You want to?
I would. I would love to go to the North Pole. I'd love to go to Antarctica.
How do you get there? Can you fly there? How does that work?
I'm not sure. I think it might be. I'm really not sure. I know Antarctica you can go like scientists and journalists can go. Obviously, like I have a friend that's in the Navy that's gone.
Yeah.
But also you can take cruises. I would assume you can't do that.
Yeah.
Take a cruise to the North Pole. I don't know, but I think people get there somehow, some way.
Very
I'd love to.
interesting. Yeah. I love that. We are going to go to break, and when we come back, we had a packed show with all these live events yesterday, but we failed it. Yesterday was the Lunar New Year. I think the year of the fire horse. You know anything about the fire horse?
Yeah, well, I know about the zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with all the different animals. I had a lot of fun. I was born in 1993. I was a rooster. I had a lot of fun when we'd go to Chinese restaurants because the menu would tell you your zodiac, and it didn't say rooster. When you're a kid and you're immature. It's at a different word, and I had a lot of fun being born in that year. But I wasn't aware of the elemental aspect of it until our very own Paul Milgate was informing me about that yesterday. But yeah, it was kind of like a coalescence of all these different days. It's like the start of Ramadan, the start of Lent, and the Lunar New Year as well. And I think it's one of the only times in human history that this has happened. I saw something on Twitter today that said this isn't going to happen again until the 2186 or something like that. So an anomaly throughout human history and a day worth celebrating.
Absolutely. We'll have more on all of this and more. Yes, Paul.
I was just going to jump in while you're just talking about. I did a little Google on travel plans in case you did want to head to the North Pole.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you can't do it right now.
I'm curious.
It's reserved for the summer months. You need to go through July and August in an icebreaker ship, and it'll set you back between $30,000 and $60,000.
No thanks.
I almost just cursed on TV. Oh my God.
So I don't know what your plans are. Your next travel plans are, Max, but $30,000, $60,000.
You gonna go to the North Pole?
You know what? I think I'm good. You know, Santa's got it locked on there. I'll just FaceTime him. He can show me the area. It's
you know what? Apart from the cool animals like polar bears up there, I feel like you could probably just walk out on a lake up here and you'd get a similar experience.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
We'll just ship a polar bear over here and it's the same thing.
And I'll only charge you half the price.
It's got to be the most expensive place on earth to go to. $30,000.
That is absolutely absurd.
I
just to
think
see.
climbing Mount Everest is one of the most expensive things you can possibly, and obviously trying to get down to the Mariana Trench. We've seen how that's gone for billionaires in the past, but it's that's a very expensive thing to do. But this would have to be up there.
You can't just show up at Mount Everest and just climb it. It costs money to do that.
No,
really?
No, you got to get permits. You got to get all types of stuff. You have to have someone that takes you up there and everything. Yeah, you have to even just to get, because me and one of my best friends that I travel together a lot with, we want to do the Everest base camp, and even just getting to the base camp takes like 7 to 10 days just to get to the base. And so many people
get to the base of the mountain.
And even that in and of itself is an arduous task, to the point that you have to wait because of the altitude and altitude sickness. You have to stay in a village. You have to go progressively like that because of the altitude, the increase in altitude. And you have to stay in a village for about a day or two of that time period just so you can get used to it. And that's just to get to the base, let alone when you start climbing. So it's a 14-day trip in total to get to the base and get to back, and let alone climbing up.
To the point you were making in the previous, when we're chatting Black History, I always think of Edmund Hillary is credited with being the first person to make it to the top of Mount Everest. There's a Sherpa. There is at least a Sherpa who did it well before him.
Oh,
doesn't
for
get
sure.
that credit that has fallen by the wayside in history, and I just think
for sure
it's such a shame that those people don't get credited. So hats off for crediting those other people in Black History Month.
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to work out if we have time to go to break. I think if we go really quick, we can, and we'll come back.
Let's do it.
And I'll leave it to you.
We'll throw it a break, and when we come back, we'll have some info on the fire horse.
Yeah, let's do it. One more segment of the afternoon shift to go. We'll be right back after this.
breaking news from Italy. The USA, they have won a razor-tight overtime thriller over Sweden 2-1. The Wild's very own Quinn Hughes scored the overtime goal.
How about that? The Wild's newest, latest and greatest player, Quinn Hughes, a defenseman, superstar in the NHL, one of the best in the league. Everybody's been super stoked about having him here. It's really, I mean, the Wild were already doing great this season and really just kind of turned everything around. And now that's the reason that everybody's, thinking about the Stanley Cup this year, possibly having newfound aspirations. And he's the hero of the day for Team USA.
Yes, absolutely. It really was a thriller between the USA and Sweden. And as dominant as the USA had been, if they would have lost this match, I mean, it would have been just an abject disappointment. They would have not even medaled. They would have gone home after today. That would have been it.
100%. And this is their best. Has been their best chance. I know a lot of people. There's renewed hope that they can capture their first gold medal. I think since the miracle for the men.
Yes.
Because of the NHLers being back in the mix, and then Quinn Hughes saves the day for Team USA, and now they're 2 more games to possibly get the gold medal.
2 more games. So they'll have a semifinal on Friday. I forgot who Jesse said they're going to play. Slovakia.
Slovakia.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was
Slovakia. And then
or Finland.
Finland,
yeah.
and then whoever else. It could be Canada in the gold medal match. I think that's either Saturday or Sunday in the morning, not in the afternoon. It's like an 8 o'clock Central Time start.
I know we're biased. Of course, we're biased, but I think the whole world kind of wants to see Team USA versus Canada another time for the gold. It would be very comical though if it ends up being like Finland versus Slovakia and Team USA and Canada just duking it out for the bronze medal. That would be I think that'd be disappointing for everybody here in the United States, especially here in Canada, because as much as we want it in Minnesota, they want it 20 times more in Canada. That's their whole national identity is based around that pretty much. So it'll be a dogfight for the rest of this Olympics for sure.
Yeah, only I think 5 more days left of the Winter Olympics, so it's kind of coming to an end. Things are starting back up. Basketball season, they're starting. I think their first games are Friday or something like that.
Yeah, the Wolves are back in action. I believe the Wild are actually back to practice today. I was reading all the non-Olympic Wild players are back at practice today. They don't start for another week and some change because obviously you want to give the Olympic guys a time to readjust to get back before and get their legs underneath them before you throw them out there on the ice. But everything's kind of getting back into motion as we thaw from the Olympics freeze.
Yeah, we're thawing from the Olympics freeze, but it is very cold and nasty outside. Everybody stay safe and go slow. What does Ian say? Tapper slow.